What is up, guys? Pastor Matheny here, and thank you for joining me today in my study. So, in my daily Bible readings, I've been reading through the book of Acts and just finished the book the other day. And I was reminded once again of the beauty of a particular passage towards the end of the book. It's during the part of the book of Acts where we're following the actions of St. Paul. And St. Paul has been taken into custody and held in bondage for a while, and he's giving his testimony, his account of himself, to a couple of kings. And so he goes through the details of the history of his life and his conversion to Christianity and his preaching of Christianity. And here's the passage that I'm talking about. This comes from Acts chapter 26. I'm going to read you verses 24 through 29. And as he was saying these things in his defense, Festus, that is one of the kings, said with a loud voice, "Paul, you are out of your mind. Your great learning is driving you out of your mind." But Paul said, "I am not out of my mind, most excellent Festus, but I am speaking true and rational words. For the king knows about these things, and to him I speak boldly. For I am persuaded that none of these things has escaped his notice, for this has not been done in a corner. King Agrippa, do you believe the prophets? I know that you believe." And Agrippa said to Paul, "In a short time would you persuade me to be a Christian?" And Paul said, "Whether short or long, I would, to God, that not only you, but also all who hear me this day might become such as I am, except for these chains." Now, this is a great passage, a powerful and dramatic event that's occurring. St. Paul making known the gospel to these people in positions of authority over him. But the line in particular that was getting my attention and making me think about it more today is after the king accuses St. Paul of being driven out of his mind, the king says, St. Paul says, "For I am persuaded that none of these things has escaped his notice," that is the other king, "for this has not been done in a corner." He's talking about, of course, the events of the life of Jesus and all that has occurred during Jesus' ministry, all the miracles and the preaching and the teaching and all those things, eventually his crucifixion, and then the claims of his resurrection that have been investigated. St. Paul says he's well aware of what has happened in his own territory because these things have not been done in a corner. That is, they have been done publicly. And I just thought a bit about that because oftentimes I think we do things in the church, and any kind of thing, from giving a sermon to attending a Bible study to changing the paraments, to folding bulletins, to doing service works or sitting in on a Sunday school class and things like that. And oftentimes it feels to us, at least it feels to me, like the things that we're doing are being done in a corner. They're being done privately and quietly, and often this little segment of society that no one will ever notice or care about. But I submit to you that the things that we do in church, that the actions and the life and the work of this congregation, of our congregation, and in fact of every Christian congregation, are things that are not done in a corner. We do them publicly for the whole world to see. And if they turn their eyes away and ignore what it is that we're about and who we are and who we worship and what we're doing, it's not because we've hidden them away in a corner. So I think about, for instance, every week the fact that we confess the Apostles' Creed together or the Nicene Creed together. And when you think about that action of the congregation standing together and speaking the Apostles' Creed, what we are doing is announcing publicly, not in a corner, all the events and all the actions and all the work and the love of God. We are stating publicly for the world to hear, for anyone who is willing to listen, what the Christian faith is and what it has made us to be. That is, children of God. So, brothers and sisters, as you go about your weeks and your days, remember these words of St. Paul, that these actions and these works of our church and of our God are not private, are not hidden, are not secret, but they are public. Because all of these things, from Jesus' birth and incarnation and preaching and ministry and teaching and suffering and death and resurrection, to the birth of the church in the book of Acts, to the work of the church fathers down through the centuries, all the way down to our very congregation, these things have not been done in a corner. They are done publicly for all to see. So, these are just my thoughts on this brief passage here today. Thank you for joining me in my study, and I will see you all soon. Peace.